This is Jim Fetzer sitting in for Gary King, who's stranded in Dallas with a bent computer. It appears someone stepped on his computer. He can't be here for the new JFK show number 220. We are very proud to have as our guest tonight Jimmy Brown, who is the oldest son of Madeline Duncan Brown, who is a young advertising executive at the age of 24. Began an affair with Lyndon Johnson in 1948. She bore Lyndon a son, Stephen, born in 1950, who is Jimmy Brown's younger brother. Jimmy is going to tell us about his life with Madeline, Stephen, and other aspects related to the background for further understanding the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Jimmy, welcome to the new JFK show.
Thank you.
Yeah, you want to be sure to speak up, my friend.
Thank you.
Good. Now you go ahead, Jimmy, and just pick up. I mean, tell us about your first memories, the life with your mother. Did you get to know your father? They divorced, I take it. Just begin in the beginning.
In the beginning, that would have been, I don't know. Memories start to come back about 1952 or so.
Okay, 1952 or so. Go ahead. I mean, that's after Madeline began her affair with Lyndon.
That's probably correct. I'm not real sure exactly when it did.
Do you remember ever meeting Lyndon?
A couple of times.
Did you know he was somebody special in your mother's life?
Well, she said he was. So it was a pleasure for me to meet them.
You took her word for it, right?
I took her word for it. So anyway, one of the first things I remember is going to a political party, and that was when they were running against Nixon and Cabot Lodge.
Yeah, Henry Cabot Lodge, yes.
And that's where I met Johnson and his sister.
Which let's see. Do you remember this Josefa?
No, she was dark-haired and real tall.
There was Lyndon had one of his sisters whacked actually by Malcolm Mac Wallace, Jimmy. I don't know if you know that, but she talked too much and Lyndon wasn't happy about it, so he had Mac Wallace take her out, along with about a dozen other people, over and apart from his participation in the assassination.
Yeah, the Mac Wallace was a common name around the house, but we don't talk about it here.
Larry, I want you to, just participate here with Jimmy. So, hopefully we can keep the volume up so we can hear. Tell us, Jimmy, what was most significant in your life with regard to your mother? I mean, how was it like growing up with Madeline? Colorful.
Kept me entertained.
Tell us in what ways or how that happened.
Well, let's see. She always had me help her out with getting like dresses and dyeing shoes and some other things. It was entertaining.
She was going out to a lot of social events because of her relationship with Lyndon, right?
Yes, she was. That and advertising in general.
Yes, because of course she was a young advertising executive who had her office in a bank building. Did you visit her office in the bank building?
Yes, I did.
Because she remembered how at the meeting at the home of Clint Murchison the night before the assassination, a prominent Republican leader who worked in the same bank building drove Richard Nixon out to the meeting.
I'm not real sure that I remember that much about it.
Right. How old would you have been? That was, of course, 1963.
63, I was about 11 or 12.
11 or 12.
I think 12.
How did life change before and after the assassination?
Well, life got kind of interesting because Mom didn't talk about it very much. And other than that, she was careful about what she said and who she said it to. And the other part would have been who she associated with. And her biggest concern was to ensure that Stephen and I were protected.
Yeah, tell us about Stephen. How was your relationship? How much younger was he than you?
2 years younger than me.
2 years younger.
My mom told me that pretty much what I would learn and Steve would learn because I teach it to him.
Who did Stephen live with? With Madeline?
Yeah, it was. If we weren't at home with Mom, we were at my grandmother's.
So you were like your stepbrothers, you know, so to speak, and you practically grew up together. You hung out together all the time, lived under the same roof, correct?
That's correct, all the time.
That's amazing. In The Men Who Killed Kennedy, your mom talked about how there was a lot of talk going around Dallas about LBJ's involvement, you know, and she confronted him at the time where she was able to, after the assassination, to speak to him in private. And she point blank told him, look, people here in Dallas and Texas are talking about your involvement in the assassination. Was that spoken, you know, at you know, in the house, you know, around her, around you or Stephen, that type of conversation?
It was pretty much known that when we were growing up and the way that Lyndon Johnson acquired political power and that there wasn't much of a question as to who was behind the assassination. It was Lyndon Johnson or part of his organization.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a known, pretty much a given from the beginning.
You mean throughout Dallas, and it was pretty well understood that was the case?
That's what I meant. That's what I mentioned.
Yeah.
Throughout Dallas, it was
The grapevine.
call it common knowledge if you wanted to.
I like that, common knowledge, yes.
Sometimes referred to as tribal knowledge.
But
Yes.
In the interview, Madeline said something about the oilmen being heavily involved in the whole thing. Do you know anything about that?
Well, I knew that the politics and the oil, a lot of the funding came from the oil interests. They wanted to ensure that they kept their royalties and
Right, the oil depletion allowance.
that. Yes, that was
Which Kennedy wanted to do away with, obviously. You know, that was a point of contention there.
Yeah, it could have cost him his life on that one because that was start taking money out of the pockets of the oil people and you might get into trouble.
I don't imagine you're aware, but about 6 weeks after the assassination, your mother had a rendezvous with Lyndon at the Driscoll Hotel in Austin, Texas on New Year's Eve, where she confronted him with rumors rampant in Dallas at the time that he'd been involved since no one stood to gain more personally. Lyndon blew up at her and told her the oil boys and the CIA had decided that Jack had to be taken out. Did she ever share that conversation with you?
It was talked about over a long period of time. The first time I couldn't tell you when it was. It was one of those things, again, it was a known fact, or it was common knowledge is the best way to describe it. The rumors that went around, and especially in the Democratic Party.
Were the Democrats in Texas pro JFK? Or actually instead, no, they were in Lyndon's pocket, right? They were pro LBJ, right?
I just got a message that says my internet connection's unstable.
That's okay. Don't worry about it. That's okay.
Anyway, that's pretty much.
The Texas Democrats were pro-Lyndon, right? They were conservative Democrats. They weren't happy with JFK on multiple fronts, right?
That's correct. Texas had a two-party system. It was Democrat conservative or Democrat liberal.
Like Ralph Yarborough, of course.
Was a Democrat liberal, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the oil industry, most of those people were involved on the conservative side of the fence.
Yeah, the Hunts, the Murchisons.
Oh, it was pretty much a call it a clique, if you like.
What about, there's been a lot of talk about, John Birch Society also dominating a lot of the political scene there in Dallas at the time. How is that interrelated, in the whole LBJ and, in the assassination? Do you know by any chance?
I have no idea about that one, but I do know that they were in Dallas and they were a force, if you like to call it that, a political entity, because I remember reading some of their literature back in the 60s.
Right.
They had a book out, None Dare Call It Conspiracy, which brings up the...
What about their infiltration or relationship with the Dallas Police Department? Because we know that the DPD was really, really involved in, a lot of the covering up, and covering up the tracks, and making sure that a lot of the, the clues and the trails, went cold and stuff like that. Any thoughts on that?
It was one of those, call it known facts within what my mom was talking about, that the Dallas police, it was like
right.
an organization, and it included the sheriffs and law enforcement in general.
Right.
Democrats, they all worked together. They were all part of the system.
Right.
If you were high enough in the Democrat Party, you didn't have it.
So we're talking about a lot of tentacles going on here at the same time, right?
That is true.
Wow.
Because I remember the sheriff coming on TV talking about there was no organized crime in Dallas.
Right.
My mom took me to places that, like the Egyptian Club in Dallas.
Right. Civello was heavily involved in that, and also, Sheriff Bill Decker was, I don't know if you've heard the name, he was really, really in bed with the mob, from the 40s and 50s and the 60s when the assassination took place. He was key in being involved in the security stripping of the motorcade, where he told the sheriffs and the police that were right there down on Main Street at the DPD not to take part in any of the security of the motorcade. And this is Roger Craig, who was on record as to have said that, because he was there at the time, and he and I'm sure if you were at Judy's conference, Roger Craig's son. And he had a lot of really interesting information, stuff that had never ever been revealed before. And I thought that was tying this whole thing up, on the relationship of the Dallas Police Department, with organized crime, and how compromised they were, especially Bill Decker, because Bill Decker was key in this whole thing.
Jimmy, this is Gary King, who's just made contact with us. He had a problem with his computer. He's in Dealey Plaza, so he's showing us a view. Gary, why don't you fill us in on where you are and what's going on here?
Well, actually, can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm over here. I'm standing on top of the triple overpass. I can see the pyramid overlooking Dealey Plaza, and I'm about to go over here where
your camera is pointed down to the ground, Gary. That's not interesting. Yeah. Good. Show us, the scene. There you go.
Okay,
All
so
right.
right now. But what I want to do, I want to go where Larry showed us where that little cabinet was, where they put the.
No, that's okay.
outside.
Stay where you are. You don't need to do that. I
Okay.
like what you're doing.
All right.
Please,
Yeah,
look, I want you to know Jimmy Brown here, who is Madeline's oldest son. He is here with us, Gary. I don't know
Pleasure.
what I'm looking at. Looks like I'm looking at your arm. I saw a lot of
Okay.
hair
I got it now.
follicles. All right. Why don't you say hello to Jimmy, Gary?
Yeah, I'm really proud to and honored to meet you and to be on our show, and I just can't wait. You know, I tried my best. I had computer problems in the hotel at the Lawrence Hotel, so
Gary,
that's why I came here.
close. We want to see your face. You're too close. We're looking at your moles up by your ear.
Yeah, I'm on my phone. Let me turn up the volume. I've never tried it on my phone, but you guys just go ahead, and I'm gonna go ahead and listen.
No, Gary, this is good. This is good. We like seeing you here. Yeah, no, this is good.
Okay.
Jimmy, Larry, did you finish your thought there? You were.
No. I think he knows exactly, what I'm talking about in the involvement of, this right wing force there, that had a lot to do, with covering up, and facilitating the whole event there, because obviously, without the cooperation of the Dallas Police Department there, none of this would have been possible. I think that was key. And Jim knows, for example, Weatherford, on top of the records building, and Decker and Weatherford had a relationship. In fact, when I believe when Decker died, Weatherford was right there, at his bedside, and people like Will Fritz, who after the assassination lived, I believe, in the Adolphus Hotel, as a hermit, and never came out or gave any interviews or anything like that, until the day that he died, And it's very interesting how, a lot of the Dallas Police Department, just completely clammed up, and the only one who was talking was Roger Craig, and how he ended up. So, that's all I wanted to say there.
And it may be that our man was, assigned to take them out if they opened their mouths, Larry. I mean, I think they may have known that it would be very unwise to talk about the assassination.
Mm-hmm.
There was a code of silence about that.
Right, a code of silence. Exactly, Jimmy.
I think that's the best way to put it. Even the JFK enforcement, the 4 motorcycle cops that were around in the immediate vicinity of the limousine at the time of the assassination, completely were unavailable. They were not even interviewed by the FBI. They did not testify. Only Bobby Hargis and Billy Martin ever so, briefly, a couple of pages, and the FBI and the investigators did not bother to talk to any of them in detail, and it's really ridiculous because they were the ones that were closest, to JFK when it happened, so that's why, I think that this.
Larry, don't you think Roscoe was an enforcer there, Roscoe White, and if they'd opened their mouths, he would have taken them out?
Absolutely. Now that we know that he was backyard man,
Uh-huh. And was it in his diary that his son discovered that he talked about taking out a lot of witnesses?
Mm-hmm. Codename Mandarin.
Mandarin?
That's right.
Codename Mandarin.
Yeah, Mandarin.
There were some nasty pieces of work in your vicinity, Jimmy. These were very bad people. Did you ever meet Jack Ruby? Did Madeline ever take you to the Carousel Club?
Yes, sir.
Good question.
Jimmy, I couldn't hear because we got no wind. The wind was blowing in Dealey Plaza. Jimmy,
Gary, mute your mic.
Okay.
So, where it is.
Now,
go ahead, Jimmy.
Anyway, my mom took Steve and I both down to the Carousel and watched the burlesque. And
Oh, yeah? How'd you like that, Jimmy?
it was entertaining. Yes, it was a lot of fun. We had, interesting evening.
The first time I saw a strip show, it was in New York City. I was 15 and going on a bicycle tour of Europe, England, Belgium, Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and France. And I was down in Times Square, and I just walked into one of these places, and, you know, there was a floor show and the whole bit.
That was before.
For whatever reason, they didn't keep me out.
That was before Giuliani cleaned up 42nd.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was very seedy, but, you know. I mean, it was my first time in the city. Very, very consciousness expanding, Larry.
Yeah.
Consciousness expanding.
You always remember that one.
And Jack had some pretty good strippers, yeah?
Yes, he did.
How popular was Jack in Dallas? You know, or notorious? You know, maybe that would be the word, right?
He was quite popular and well known.
What was there more information going around about Jack? You know, that maybe, you know, never got out. You know, perhaps, you know, his that he was. We all know that he was very, very involved, you know, with the police department. You know, he much more than we were led to believe. But how about, you know, with the overall public, you know, and knowing that he knew more than what you know what's revealed, and how they had him, in jail for 3 years, and then all of a sudden, you know, he contracted this raging cancer, the fast-acting cancer, you know, and then all of a sudden he's dead, you know. Was there any suspicion about that, you know, and it talked about there in Dallas at the time?
Well, one thing was that Ruby was sort of a connecting between the mafia and the Dallas police.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
About how half the cops would come around to the Carousel Club. Did he give them free drinks, Jimmy? Do you know? Did the cops get free drinks at the Carousel?
Back in that day, I would say most likely.
Yeah, more. I think more than free drinks, Jim.
Yeah, freebies. Gary, you're actually on Elm Street, right? You were up at Houston and Elm, Gary. Am I right? Gary, I can't hear you. Gary.
Yeah, I had to mute my audio. Yeah, I'm on Elm Street. I just showed the 6th floor. We're by the pond and all that. So I'm just trying to walk around and, you know, show pictures of all that. And I'm having a hard time hearing sometimes because of the noise. But I'm really, you know, trying my best to hear.
So what are you doing in Dallas?
Well, the New Orleans Saints are playing the Dallas Cowboys tomorrow night.
Oh, so you've come for a football game.
Right. I'm there, but I'm at the Lawrence Hotel, so I'm able to walk to Dealey Plaza, you know, at will. And it's kind of nice to come at night when there's not a lot of people there. And, you know, it's always surreal when you're here, you know, to know what it's happening.
Are you running into a familiar figure in Dealey Plaza with his...
no, he's not there at night. We got here at night, but he'll be there tomorrow.
I know who you're talking. I wanted to ask, going back to the ratification party there at the Murchisons, Hoover, did anybody ever talk about, you know, his presence there, you know, and that kind of thing?
Oh, sure. Madeline talked about it. She told me.
I know, but that Jimmy might have, you know.
Oh, yeah, Jimmy. Yeah. Did you hear much about J. Edgar Hoover, Jimmy?
Well, Mom told me and talked about that meeting from time to time. And she said that everybody was there that she wrote down in the book.
Yeah.
She said that Hoover, Johnson, and the Speaker of the House at the time were all pretty good buddies.
Sam Rayburn?
That's correct. So they were all collectively a somewhat of an organized effort.
Mm-hmm.
And they were all real unhappy with JFK, right? They would have all had an interest in seeing Lyndon become president.
Oh, big time.
Yeah, Hoover kept files on all of those people. And,
I take it that you were in junior high school, you know, when this happened. You know, can you describe, you know, what the situation, how it happened there when you found out and everything?
Well, I was actually the day that it occurred. I was in high school. I was the first year. I was a sophomore, and
Okay, because you said that you were 11 or 12 years old.
well, that was when that was back when we were talking about political party and that kind of thing.
Oh, okay, okay. So at the time of the assassination, you were a sophomore. Okay, even better. Yeah, then you have a much better recollection. Excellent.
Yeah, Kennedy wasn't like that much in Texas.
So everybody applauded then.
Some did.
There you go.
Yeah, some did. They were glad to see him go.
Wow. Wow.
Hey, can you tell where I am?
Let's
You're
see.
you're in the doorway?
Yeah, he's inside the triple underpass by the.
Oh, wow. Yeah, yeah, in the cubby hole. He's in the cubby hole.
Yeah, this is where they put the rifle right away.
Yeah, it's open now, Gary. Yeah.
It's wide open. We could look for bullets in the hole, and then right here.
Yeah. Yeah, the view. Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, fellas, I'm gonna let y'all keep going.
This is very good, Gary.
Man on the spot there. Yeah, because, yeah, so then, students cheered. What about teachers? What was their reaction?
Theirs was pretty much standard. They were sorry it occurred.
Because where Judith was in high school, no, not in high school, but she was working at that chemical company at the time. And she describes how everybody just exploded, in cheers, at the time when they found out about it. She writes about that in her book, after she had left New Orleans and she went back to Florida and started to work, at this chemical
Rather
company.
how the Democrats would explode in cheers if someone took out Trump, Larry.
Who knows?
And there have been a dozen attempts on him already.
Well, I don't think they're going to need to do that because, now with the House, they're, what's going to happen now.
Well, they're going to have endless additional investigations. They're going to go nowhere but tie up Washington in knots.
Yeah, that's politics. So go ahead, Jim. You talked about Josefa. That was Lyndon's sister who was involved with that golf pro, Kinsler. Is that what his name?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we also go back to the Henry Marshall case, and so many other deeds, that Mac Wallace, was involved in, and how Lyndon, dominated politics from the House to being a senator, and then on and on. They used to call him Landslide Lyndon there in Texas, because of how he would
the scandal of how all these voters voted in alphabetical order from their graves. It was very impressive, Larry.
Yeah.
Just enough votes to guarantee Lyndon would be elected.
Yeah.
Jimmy, Lyndon's corruption, I take it, was pretty well understood or not? Was that not something, I wouldn't think Madeline would talk much about that because she was in a relationship with him.
The Democratic Party was always corrupt as far as back as I can remember. But she talked about the picking up gifts and taking them and dropping off to other individuals, and so she was used as a courier of sorts.
Madeline was herself?
Yes.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, because she was talking about she got a phone call to go pick up a color television, which was just relatively new and expensive, and pick it up and to deliver it someplace else. And so it was within
wow.
the organization.
Tell me about Stephen. How did you and he get along?
Oh, we got along as brothers would get along. He had a significant temper and I would call him almost irritable.
Was he aware? Was he aware of who his father was?
I'm not sure how long when that occurred when my mom let him know.
But of course, he did learn because his demise was related to his filing a suit to have it legally acknowledged, which led to his apprehension. He was actually kidnapped, Larry, and put in a mental institution until
Right.
the date for the court hearing had come and gone.
And how does Jimmy react to that?
This goes to show you that even after Johnson was dead, the
Forces.
organization were still
Quite vigorous.
yes, they were.
Did you see him at all while he was institutionalized?
No, I didn't. At that point in time, I was in the Navy elsewhere.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Where were you stationed in the Navy, Jimmy?
Well, I was spent most of that period of time on a submarine.
Oh, really?
I was on the fast attack. It was USS Hawkbill, SSN 666.
What was the name of the sub again?
Hawkbill. But its serial number was SSN 666.
This is a nuclear submarine you're talking about.
Wow. Wow.
Jimmy, you know, they select people for submariner duty based on their disposition in part. They have to be easygoing and not easily irritable. Stephen would never have made a submariner.
No, you would have never survived the training.
Right. That's very impressive. Did you study engineering or anything like that? Did you, all your technical training in the Navy, or did you have any independent?
Well, I was actually down at Texas A&M studying petroleum engineering, and in the Vietnam War, I got a draft notice from Richard M. Nixon.
Did you? Did you? That was your lucky day, huh?
Yeah, it was.
So you were actually drafted?
Yes, I was. I was one of the last draftees.
Wow. Wow.
And how long were you in the Navy?
8 years.
8 years. Wow.
And where exactly was your position, you know, during the Vietnam War? In what area?
I was a machinery operator. I was a machinist mate.
Yeah, but what?
Where was your substation, Pacific?
Well, it was actually out of San Diego to start with, and then
Yeah.
we had an overhaul up in Puget Sound, and then we went from there to Hawaii. So I wound up started out being stationed in San Diego, but then wound up final place for all the years that I was there was in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii.
I spent 2 years at San Diego from 64 to 66 at the Marine Corps Recruit Depot, Jimmy. I was a series commander. I had 15 DIs and 300 recruits under my command going through the training cycle. And then they moved me up to regimental headquarters. We didn't overlap. You wouldn't have been there from 64 to 66, would you?
No, but I know the territory because I saw where it was.
Sure. What year did you get out of the Navy?
1980.
80. So you went from 72 to 80.
Somewhere around there.
What did you do? What did you do when you got out?
Went to work for the Comanche Peak Power Station in Glen Rose, Texas.
Electrical power station or nuclear?
It was a nuclear power plant.
A nuclear power plant. Wow. Wow.
So I stayed there for about 2 years, and then I started being a contractor working for other power plants throughout the country. They were doing all the TMI modifications to all the plants. So I did that for about 10 years, and then I went to work for the South Texas project, which is another Texas other nuclear power plant. And so I stayed there for 23 years.
Wow. What was your primary responsibility?
Radiation protection.
Wow.
Hmm.
Wow.
Keeping,
Were those power plants pretty leaky, Jimmy?
not really, they're really clean. But some were leaky, but in general, they were all pretty clean.
You're looking very fit for a guy who spent his years in a radioactive environment.
That's the
Yeah.
conservative effects of radiation.
Yeah, yeah. I'd like to say that I think I've watched every video that your mother has had. I find her one of the most credible witnesses that we do have, and without her, our understanding of the assassination wouldn't be nearly as clear as it is now. And I always wanted to write a book, and it would be, the title was "What About Us?" Like the people, like the Newmans that were so close to the assassination. What about their children? What happened to them? And I think you would be a perfect chapter in there. You know, as far as what happened, you know, to everyone else besides the main characters, because you've had to live with this your whole life, and so have we. But you're really more, you know, an insider.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, what about obviously, you know, in Dallas, you know, the consensus was that finding a patsy like Lee Oswald was kind of ridiculous. Am I right there? Is that how people in Dallas, you know, their opinion there of you know, or was there any opinion of what Lee Oswald's involvement in this might have been?
Well, it's pretty much from everything Mom talked about, and with the Dallas police, and the fact that they didn't want a federal investigation going on in Dallas. It was one of those things that was pretty obvious that whoever they claimed the assassin was had to be taken out, and so ended so that there was no federal investigation going on in Dallas.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The way it worked out, that way after Ruby shot Oswald, then it became a state matter and not a federal issue.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, you know, it's kind of strange, you know, that, you know, in those days, you would have thought that they would have found, you know, some other type of patsy, you know, and this was such a sophisticated thing, you know, where they used one of their own agents who had been posing as a communist, you know, infiltrating, you know, the Cuban exiles, you know, and working as an informant for the FBI, and then they would turn on him, you know, and use him for this kind of thing. You know, it's sort of like, to me, it's you know, it's really ironic, because you would have thought that maybe, hey, they would use, you know, some crazy African American or something like that, you know, and they ended up using, you know, one of their own, and history, you know, has really condemned them for that, you know.
Yeah, that is a good point, no doubt about it. So have you, are you kind of new to these conferences? Have you just started doing that?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
First one ever.
Really?
First one?
First one ever.
Wow. Well, what was your take? What did you think?
It's entertaining. It's an interesting way to get the information out there, because I know that when Mom wrote her book and she was trying to get it out there, every time she attempted to do something, she ran into a brick wall, which...
Yes, of course. Yes, yes.
Because the Johnson organization could stop just about anything at any time.
Did you ever meet Harrison? You know, why is his name slipping?
About Woody Harrelson?
No. You know,
Who?
you know, Harrison, the
Livingston?
author. You know, the
Livingston.
Yeah, Harrison Livingstone. Did you meet him, Jimmy?
Well, that would be one of those I probably did, because Mom...
Well, he was a huge guy. He was a great big guy. He would have been about 6'5" and 300 pounds. I mean, he was a very big guy. Hard to miss.
Most likely I have, but I don't remember it that well.
Tell me, when Stephen decided to bring his lawsuit to get recognized as Lyndon's son, I know that he and Madeline had a lot of conversations about it. No doubt you overheard or participated in some of those. Do you recollect any of that?
Not really, because most of that occurred after I'd gone to the Navy.
After you'd gone into the Navy.
So I was absent from the house when most of that went on.
Did you see Stephen after you'd been drafted? Did you see him?
Every once in a while, I came back and would come to visit for Christmas and that kind of thing when I had to leave. So it was family reunion kind of thing.
Well, San Diego and Hawaii were both good for R&R, wouldn't you say?
Yes, it was.
So how many times have you been interviewed? I mean, did people come to you right away besides Livingston?
Not really. I haven't. This is like probably the second or third time that I've ever had an interview of any time.
Wow. Well, Larry Rivera is the one, because he has such a deep understanding, and so does Dr. Fetzer, that sometimes you'll say things and we'll pick up on, you know, the meaning or things that other people may not really, unless you study the case really in depth like we have. You know, so, but you're on the good team, we promise you that. There's a lot of slippery slopes out there in JFK, and we like to pride ourselves in being the one that are not that way.
Jimmy, did you go to this conference the following day after Judas conference where they were attacking me, among others?
I apparently missed that one.
You missed that one.
Missed that one.
Yeah. Someone was promising to send me the program, but the problem is that there's been a lot of infiltration in JFK and also in 9/11, Jimmy, by people who don't want the truth to come out, and they're trying to corrupt the research that's going on. That Larry, for example, last year had a presentation that would have shown Lee Oswald was in the doorway, and when they had a mock trial set up for Houston, he was supposed to participate and present as a witness, but they cut him out because his work was too good.
Right. Yeah, and the people that cut him out are standing around giving themselves a lifetime achievement awards.
Oh, did Gary? Did we tell Gary about the guy that came out there? You know, when defending Grodin, you know, one of his cronies there. That
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. He's out there on November the 22nd. He'll be out there that week because that's the big week, you know. But
yeah,
I know exactly who you're talking
We're
about.
talking about the owner of the negative.
Yeah, owns the negative of the Alton 6 photograph. And he says, as much as he would love for it to be Lee Oswald, it's really Billy Lovelady. And then he just, split, you know, was gone.
Yeah.
That was a particularly absurd aspect of that meeting.
Yeah, and then we identified that, you know, as a scam, a setup, you know. And
yeah, we've always looked at Judy's conference as being the most truthful and the most honest. There's another conference across the way run by Deborah Conway, which are just an abomination. But this time we were really surprised at the infiltration into Judy's one. But we're really happy that you were there because you seem to be one of the people to bring some real truth and some new knowledge.
Jimmy, originally there was going to be a panel about Madeline on Friday, and I recommended to Judith that you be included. I was originally scheduled for that, but I have a granddaughter who is doing a performance in a play, actually both a grandson and a granddaughter, the night before. So for family reasons, I couldn't be there Friday morning. But I was very disappointed that you weren't included in that panel. Did you sit in on that session?
I didn't sit down. I didn't even know about it until after it was already done.
Who else would you want to be there? My gosh.
I thought it was entertaining that whoever sat there probably didn't know it that well.
Of course, yeah. Very, very funny.
What about the other Texas researchers? Were you ever approached, were you ever interviewed, you know, by people such as Jim Mars, Penn Jones Jr., you know, local Gary Shaw, you know, those type of individuals there that investigated the case, you know, for so long there in Texas, the Dallas researchers?
No, you just named a whole bunch of my mom's friends, but
Okay, okay,
no, they didn't talk to me very much.
okay, okay. But you did know who they were, you know, because they were your mom's friends.
Yep.
And they talked to her quite a bit.
Yes, they did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, you know, we lost Jim, you know, last year, you know, and, you know, he was a really, really important researcher in Texas because he
was
even
there.
taught a course. Yeah, he even taught a course at UT Austin there, and he even talks about how, you know, some spooks would infiltrate his classes, you know, to create havoc there, you know, and create dissension, you know, and you know, and that kind of thing. Even to that extent, you know, was, you know, the forces, you know, fighting, you know, this thing about the JFK investigation.
Yeah, it goes on to this very day. It happened at the last conference.
Yes, it does.
No doubt.
That would have been one of those things that from my dealings with the military and intelligence and things like that, it looks to me like the JFK has the meetings and conferences have been infiltrated deliberately with disinformation in some sort.
Yeah.
You're
Got that
absolutely
one.
right.
Why do you think that is, you know, after so many years? You know, if this is starting to really, you know, get going to the forgotten stage, you know, or, you know, relevant, you know, for, you know, the young people and that kind of thing. Why do you think that might be? That they're still trying to, you know, do this.
It could have been that the reins of power have been passed on to other individuals, and they want to make sure that the legacy stays the way they want it in the form.
That's a great point. Yeah.
Yeah, wasn't there a Hollywood people that Lyndon Johnson paid to make sure he was always portrayed in a good light? Have you mentioned that, Dr. Fetzer?
I don't know if I heard that before, Gary, but it makes sense. Jimmy, you were aware of that?
Yeah, Mom talked about Jack Valenti for years.
Yeah, Jack Valenti in particular, right? The Czar of Hollywood, who went out of his way to make sure that Oliver Stone's film JFK did not receive the Best Picture Academy Award.
Yeah, she said that the Hollywood connection, if you want to call it that, it was always well orchestrated.
Are you aware of, maybe you might have heard of the forces behind pulling the last 3 episodes of Nigel Turner's JFK
The
investigation?
men who killed Kennedy.
Yeah, the men who killed Kennedy from the History Channel. Was there any type of rumors or anything going on there, you know, especially because the Lady Bird, you know, and the LBJ people that were still, you know, trying to cover this up, you know, did the arm twisting, you know, to get that, you know, deep sixth, so to speak.
Oh, that will continue to go for a number of years yet, I'm sure. But that's just let you know that the organization is alive and well, and they're still manipulate the data.
Mm-hmm. What about talking about Lady Bird? What any? I mean, I've always thought that she was, you know, a big force behind, you know, what LBJ was about. Do you, I mean, any opinion as to her?
My opinion is yeah, she was a major force behind it.
Really?
Because after Johnson was gone, she was in control, and she gave my mom enough problems, so I would say
She did.
Well, she had the safe deposit box that had all of the papers that guaranteed that she'd be supported into the future, ripped out of the wall of the bank. I mean, Larry, it was unbelievable. Actually, physically ripped out of the wall of the bank.
Mm-hmm.
Lady Bird.
Mm-hmm.
She was a nasty piece of work. Frankly, of all the people involved in the assassination, she's the one for whom I had the greatest apprehension. Lady Bird.
Mm-hmm. Well, you can see in that iconic those photographs. You know, when Sarah Hughes is swearing him in. You know how the smile on her face. You know where she's
Yeah. You can see true anguish and true happiness
yeah.
all in one picture.
And the
Jackie versus
one
Lady.
photo that they never published, the one where he turns around and Al Thomas is winking at him, which is so disgusting,
Mhm. Yeah, it was on. Whew.
Well, what do we got?
Well, Jimmy, yeah. In the few minutes that remain, what would you tell us that you'd want the American people to know about having been the son of a woman who played such an important role in the life of Lyndon Johnson?
Beware of the Democratic Party.
Over here they call them the demo rats.
They are corrupt and have been corrupt for many, many years. So I would say.
You don't think this is a recent turn of events? Madeline seemed to me to be a very good person, very truthful, very candid, very well, she was socially aware, I have no doubt, by virtue of her relationship with Lyndon in participating in so many of these events in Dallas society. What kind of a difference did it make in your life, Jimmy, that Madeline was your mother?
Well, she kept me entertained for years. Yeah. Quite a colorful person, always bringing in interesting people and playing hostess to a lot of history out there too.
Were you aware that she and Billy Saul were going to start doing a book tour around the country with their respective books about Lyndon?
I hadn't heard that, but I know that they maintain close contact for a number of years. Billy Saul lived not too far from where we are now.
What about Bobby Baker?
I don't know.
Okay.
Do you believe your mother died of natural causes?
Most likely, I would have to say she had a heart condition. And
Was she a smoker? No?
Not. I would say maybe sometimes, but I never saw it.
Okay. No, I'm just curious.
Mm-hmm.
Gary.
Yeah, she lived to a ripe old age. I remember one of the last interviews, seemed like they were outside sitting by a fence. It's one of the most candid interviews by her. And she looked like, she had lived a wonderful life, it looked like to me.
Well, Jim, how many times did you interview Madeline?
Well, I interviewed her once at a Lancer conference where I knew her story so well. We pulled up two big chairs and we did an interview. And in 30 minutes, we went through all the highlights. Mm-hmm. I had a wonderful lunch with her in Dallas where we had a really engaging conversation where she told me how puzzled she was at John Connolly when asked to describe Lyndon. It said it would take every adjective in the dictionary, that she hadn't understood it. And I explained that was because he had so many strengths, both for good, but also for evil, that for every positive attribute, there was a negative one. So it would take every adjective in the dictionary, and then she understood. We talked intermittently. I would call her to make sure she was okay. I was very concerned about her security at one point in time. So we had about 100 phone conversations, but most of them were relatively brief.
Now you mentioned Connolly. What can Jimmy tell us about him?
I know that I recall Nellie Connolly yelling at my mom, and it was, I believe, the Minger Hotel lobby. They were aware of each other, and I'd gone to see the governor's mansion when I was growing up and that kind of thing. So,
but you mean yelling at her in anger?
No, it's in
you mean just yelling to her in a greeting?
No, that one was because I kind of, kind of startled me as to that somebody yelled at her, and it was. So she told me who it was, and it was Nellie Conley.
Oh, it was Nellie.
Wow. Yeah, Nellie was the last one that passed away that was in the motorcade just a few years ago.
And she wouldn't allow the slug of lead to be taken out of John Connolly's left thigh.
Right.
No doubt about it.
On the ground that they should have worked that out with him before he passed away.
Yeah.
So Jimmy, what's your take on all this JFK stuff? Do you think it's good, bad, or indifferent?
My take is that it probably needs to continue because in a way it keeps the rest of the world honest. So,
I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, we do it every week. This is our 220th show. It's been great to have you on. We really do our best to bring the truth. We've done things to change history about Lee being in the doorway, about Jack Ruby's true role in it. We've done a lot of changing history for those who have ears to listen.
Jimmy, I was a great admirer of your mother. I thought she was wonderful writing the book. I thought took great courage and integrity. And she's made a difference by speaking the truth as she knew it about Lyndon and his role in the assassination.
And you got to have a lot of guts to do that, Jim, because you're going up against, forces that are just mind-boggling.
before she ever wrote the book, she went down a list of people that she said had to be dead before she would write the book, say anything.
So she had to wait a long time in order for them to pass along before she would publish the book.
So she was working on a manuscript for.
Well, she did an earlier book with the reporter for the Dallas Morning News.
Earl Goltz.
Dallas did it. Dallas did it.
Yeah, Earl Goltz.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy, I couldn't hear you.
Connie Kritzberg.
Yeah, Connie Kritzberg, exactly. Yeah, Dallas did it. She and Connie Kritzberg wrote a book, Larry, called Dallas Did It about,
Okay.
about the assassination before she wrote Texas in the Morning.
Okay. When you said Dallas Morning News, right, the name that popped, in my mind was Earl, because he was for many years, almost 50 years, he reported exclusively on the assassination from day one. Okay.
Yes.
He doesn't get enough credit, actually, Jim, because he really raised a lot of questions, and he did a lot of legwork, during the early days and in the intermediate and in the later years, actually.
You must have gotten to know Connie too, did you, Jimmy?
Not that well. That all of that transpired most of the time while I was.
Oh yeah, when you were in the Navy, right, on the nuclear submarine. Well, Larry, any final parting thoughts for Jimmy?
Fascinating. We always love to have, these type of witnesses, and next week we're going to have you Clark, just so don't miss it. But I think these are points of view that need to be brought out, and listened to, and because it keeps filling in, more pieces of the puzzle.
Jimmy, I can't thank you enough for coming on. Please do give our affection to Peggy.
Yeah.
She's just terrific. And Gary, do you want to take us out?
Yep, that's what we'll do. Reporting from Dealey Plaza, Dallas, Texas. Jimmy, we can't tell you how much we've enjoyed having you on the show and how much we appreciate you being on the show. And hopefully you can come back. All right, this is JFK, number 220. We'll see you next week.
All right.